Well, that was probably the craziest IBJJF World Championships that I think I've ever attended. Now, we had over 2-year layoff of no World Championships. Everybody was super excited for the return of the biggest gi tournament in the world. And while it wasn't maybe quite what we expected, it certainly didn't disappoint, right, Chase?
No, I had a great time. Absolutely could not have predicted what was going to transpire on Sunday, but every moment leading up to that, as well as the completion of the tournament, was just a lot of fun, right? I mean, we really saw some great jiu-jitsu, some amazing storylines, a little bit of drama, but that's kind of to be expected, right? That's
hey, it wouldn't be Worlds without it.
Yeah, there's an expectation at every major that something wild that you would never, ever imagine will take place. So we saw that, of course, with Nicholas Meregali and everything else that transpired because of that result. But overall, I would say fantastic tournament. Had a great time and really, really enjoyed seeing some of the gi again.
Yeah, me too. I think it was really nice to have high-level gi practitioners back at it, and especially I think as well because for me. It was really cool to catch up with a lot of people and a lot of competitors that I hadn't seen in over 2 years because, the travel restrictions into the US were basically lifted in November. So I was able to catch up with friends from Europe, with friends from Japan, from Australia, people that I hadn't seen for such a long time. So it was a very special World Championships for many, many reasons. Yeah, definitely the controversy around the Nicholas Meregali and Felipe Pena situation was probably foremost for a lot of people. But there was also a lot of other very good stuff that happened, and we'll be breaking pretty much not all of it because it was a big tournament, but we'll definitely be breaking down the key points from that today. So
you got a shirt. I didn't get a shirt.
I did get a shirt. Yeah, I made a point of getting a shirt. But take a look at the sidebar today because you can actually see some of the topics that we'll be discussing. We've got Nicholas Meregali and Felipe Pena controversy. Obviously, a number of brand new world champions were crowned. This was something that we were talking about a lot coming into the tournament, and that was realized. Also, we've got Mikey Musumeci leading the way for the Americans. There's some of the best submissions that we saw. A lot of black belt promotions, and just a reminder that we will be having the FloGrappling Awards at the end of this year, and we'll be requiring you to do your part and to also help vote for who you think is the most deserving winners. So, let's break it down. Nicholas Meregali and Felipe Pena. So for those of you who don't know, you're probably living under a rock if you hadn't heard, right?
If they're on this podcast and don't know what happened, I want to meet that person because that's a very unique situation for them.
But just to recap, just to explain what happened, we can play this video as we're talking because this is probably a good description of what went down. Is that Nicholas Meregali, who came out, returned to the gi, and looked... The old Nicholas Meregali looked incredible. Unfortunately, had a momentary lapse in focus and flipped off somebody in the crowd who was apparently talking mad shit to him. And there is a moment there. It was against Victor Hugo, ultra heavyweight semi-final. Nicholas Meregali had already classified for the absolute final against Felipe Pena. He was fired up. He was unhappy with the way the crowd was speaking to him, and he let his emotions get the better of him. He was penalized, but he was declared the winner. But then, this is where things get crazy. After the fact, he was disqualified. The result was overturned, and Victor Hugo advanced through instead, and then ended up going into the ultra heavyweight final and winning gold with a submission over Max Jimenez. So, Victor, no fault of his own, gets propelled into the final, takes his first World Championship gold medal. But what about Felipe Pena? He was left without an opponent in the absolute final. And what happened was he basically wins by default. And at the same time, takes his belt off, leaves it on the mat, and announces that he is retiring from competing at the IBJJF World Championships. Not retiring from the gi entirely, but retiring from competing at Worlds, as he says he's going to focus on an MMA career in 2022.
As well as ADCC.
As well as ADCC, because he will be coming back for that. That's a lot of information packed into a very small kind of description right there. So let's break it down. Meregali, flipping off the crowd. For those of you who know Meregali's attitude when he competes, maybe not super surprising, but definitely unexpected given the way that the match was going, right, Chase?
Sure. I mean, it was shocking in the moment, right? I was on the commentary on the call with Jake Watson, and we had mentioned several times throughout the match, Nicholas Meregali is an emotional fighter, definitely has a particular headspace that he thrives in, and sometimes can get a little excessively evolved in scenarios unfolding, including, I guess, crowd interactions, right? So it was really interesting actually to see that match finish, right, with Meregali winning, and then, of course, he was disqualified after the fact. So
great match, by the way.
It was a fantastic match. Honestly, if you even watched that one, please go back and watch it, because him and Victor Hugo really had some great exchanges, a lot of fantastic technique, and it was a marquee performance for Meregali at the end of the day, minus that, of course, snafu that he got involved in. So that was wild, right? And we weren't really sure on the ground what was happening for quite some time, because we knew things were changing behind the scenes, but what was going to happen to the absolute final, all this stuff, there were questions that we didn't quite know until people walked down to the mat, right?
It was a fast developing situation, because this is something actually that there's no precedent for it. So the IBJJF were left in a very difficult situation as to figure out what to do. So I scoured the rule book, spoke to referees, everybody, and the penalty against Meregali during the match was correct, but maybe not severe enough given the obscene gesture as it is classified in the rulebook. So it was afterwards that the referees convened and they overturned the result and they made it a straight DQ. Because Meregali was, as you saw, had his hand raised, won that match despite the penalty, but they overturned the result after reviewing the video evidence. There was a lot of video evidence. Everybody saw it. He held it out there for a while. It wasn't just a little quick flash, It was pretty obvious what happened. So they overturned the result. But then, if you get disqualified from a tournament, then you're out of that entire event. And of course, Meregali was scheduled to face Felipe Pena in the absolute final. So the big question is about, well, what the hell do we do? Because we've never had it that, usually if somebody gets DQ'd, that's it. You're out. See you later. And the other person moves on in the bracket. But they've never had it where somebody's been DQ'd, where they had another match in a different division scheduled to go after that one. So he got DQ'd from that division too. But then the question was, well, what happens with the absolute final? Do they go back and do they take Kainan, who lost to Meregali in the semi-final, and do they put him in the final instead? Well, by the rules and by the rule book, no, because Meregali won that match. And nothing happened in that match to warrant a DQ or overturning the result. It was only in the match with Victor Hugo where the result was overturned and he was pushed through into the ultra heavyweight final instead, because he was declared the rightful winner. So Pena was not having it as well. He's like, no, it's Meregali or nobody. And he was left without an opponent. So an extremely anticlimactic end to an otherwise really entertaining absolute division. And believe it or not, this is now 3 world championships in a row where we've been left without an absolute final. 2018, 2019, and 2021. 2017 was the last time we actually had an absolute final match when Leandro Lo and Buchecha fought. So a new absolute champion crowned, but Felipe Pena was very unhappy with the way it happened.
Sure, and I mean, I guess at least hope for 2022 as Felipe is done with Worlds. We'll see a new absolute champ then.
You spoke to him, right? What was his reaction like after that?
Well, he, of course, was a little frustrated, right? He wanted that match with Meregali. He said it out loud, plainly. He said, I wanted Meregali, not Kainan, and it didn't make sense. So, no match. And more importantly, though, he said, while he is done with Gi Worlds, he's not opposed to a super fight in the Gi, and specifically said Meregali would be very interesting to him. So, I mean, that's the match people want to see. There is now quite the history between the two, right? Because this goes back a couple of years to, what, 2018?
I believe it was 2018 when
Meregali submitted
Pena,
Pena, and that's, I want to say, the only time they've ever fought.
Yes,
and
I think so.
I mean, that was a very intriguing matchup for Pena to get that win back in the absolute final would be the best revenge.
I also think it was the most anticipated match of the weekend, right? Because, different divisions, Pena was at super heavyweight and Meregali was at ultra, but given, as you said, the submission back in the absolute division at 2018 Worlds, people were like, man, that could happen again in the absolute. That's the match we want to see.
Right, and
the final
it was
would have
on
been
track.
The final would have been the perfect time to see it, right?
Once the brackets for the Absolute dropped on Friday evening, we said, okay, this could happen in the final.
Yeah.
It was all set to do so, and then we got what we got. So I think a super fight would be great. We'll see what happens. I'm sure every promoter in the world is eyeing that possibility themselves.
Yeah.
So we'll keep you guys posted on where that goes. Honestly, what happens to Nicholas Meregali next is extremely fascinating to me, right? Because right now he is persona non grata for certain aspects of the community, right? The more traditional teams or coaches are not a big fan of what he's up to.
A lot of people were very upset with it.
Right.
They considered his actions to be not just be unsportsmanlike, but also that sort of that element of bringing the sport into disrepute, right?
On the other hand, though,
you
have another half or group in love with what Meregali did, saying this is what the sport needs is more personality, and that some of the stuffy rules that I mean, is he really hurting anybody, right? Let's talk about it.
There's definitely two schools of thought on this, right? And they are pretty much like they're very, very, very opposing. They're very passionate. They're very passionate about it. They're one or the other. They're either in complete support of Meregali and they don't think that he should have been DQ'd and that it's, it is what it is. And then on the other side, you got guys the more, like you say, traditional guys who are like, absolutely not. This has no place in the sport. Get this out.
So what that does is thrust him in the spotlight next season, right? Because no matter what he does, you're going to have people staunchly opposed or ravenously in support of him. Makes him a bit of an icon for all kinds of different reasons. So
biggest questions for me are, number one, will there be any further disciplinary action against Meregali? Could he be facing a suspension after this? We've seen it happen in the past. The question is, how long would that suspension be? Considering we have the season, Europeans, Pans, Brazilian Nationals, and Worlds all lined up for the next 6 months, will he be allowed to compete in those? Big question mark. Then there's the other thing about if he does come back, would he want to, given everything that happened? He was very disappointed with the way things transpired. He feels that the treatment was unjust. Will he accept this and will he come back and use it as motivation to propel him further? Or will he basically say, okay, yep, screw you guys, I'm off, see you later, and do something else? Again, another big question mark, something we'll be following closely. Personally, for me, I would love to see Meregali use this as fuel to the fire and to come back in 2022, compete at every major IBJJF tournament, win gold medals in every category possible, and show everybody through his actions that he can win emphatically, in style, and without needing to break any rules in the process.
I mean,
that's my ideal situation. I'd love to see him come back and shut up the haters.
I will say his trajectory in the sport, his legacy is definitely one of the wildest already in his still young career at black belt, but he's already a multi-time world champ, has now this situation unfolding. If he comes back and has a really successful season, the story arc to that whole scenario and narrative is pretty insane, right? And love him or hate him, he's memorable, right? So
people really do love or hate him. There's very little in between with Nicholas Meregali. Again, I feel really sad for two people who were affected by this. Victor Hugo, number one, because through no fault of his own, he's received a lot of criticism, and people feel that there is a big asterisk against his world title. It's like, well, you lost against Meregali, so you didn't deserve to be in the final, and therefore your victory is cheapened. I think that's unfair. Victor, is a victim of the circumstances. He didn't, choose. He didn't make Meregali do anything. He was just there doing what he does. And he was presented the opportunity to go into the finals of the ultra heavyweight. He took it, went out there, and won emphatically with a very, very definitive submission. So absolutely no fault of his whatsoever. Felipe Pena, on the other hand, I feel more for, because he was left without a final. And especially in such a pivotal moment in his career where he was announcing his retirement, I feel like that is definitely the one that was probably leaves the sourest taste in anybody's mouth. But as you said, he's open to the idea of a rematch in a super fight, so fingers crossed that could happen somewhere or other. So pretty wild events at the 2021 IBJJF World Championships. That was definitely the most notable and the most talked about. But let's focus on some positive stuff here, right?
Yeah,
let's look at some of the brand new black belts crowned at the 2021 Worlds, because there were a lot. And I ran some numbers. In the men's black belt divisions, we had 6 first-time gold medalists. And we had 4 gold medalists, but 5 divisions, 4 gold medalists in the women's division. So we were basically crowned with 10 brand new world champions this year.
It was a huge theme going into the event, right? Anyone watching the show or watching some of the content we made, we were talking extensively about the new blood, the first-year black belts, or those that had been a black belt since 2019 but never had a chance to at a world championship due to the pandemic. And they made a serious impression, right? We saw, as we said, 10 brand new champs. So it's an exciting time for jiu-jitsu as we see a changing of the guard. We have people like Lucas Lepri out, Bushesha out, so on, opening the pathway for these new athletes, and they took advantage of that.
This may have flown under the radar, by the way, but Lucas Lepri actually announced his retirement from Worlds over the weekend as well. Dropped it in an Instagram post and said that that's it, he's good. He will come back for ADCC next year, but IBJJF Worlds is a thing in the past for him. So, well, let's talk about some of these champions. And we'll start off with this video of the male black belt champions. Let's play this. So, in the light featherweight division, Diego Oliveira, but we call him Pato, is his nickname. Man, he looked great. He's looked great all year. He took gold at Nogi Pans, Nogi Worlds, Pans, and now Worlds in his first World Championships as a black belt. He's been a black belt since 2019, was promoted shortly after the 2019 Worlds. However, this year has just been phenomenal for him, and winning by submission in the final as well against Malachi Edmond. It's a really good way to put a stamp on things in your first Worlds as a black belt, right?
Yeah, there's no question that Pato's on the short list of Grappler of the Year. As you mentioned, success gi, no gi, and every kind of format imaginable, and does it in style, right? He's not eking out victories. He's getting
a finisher.
Submission wins here, like we saw in the final. So,
yeah,
one of the most exciting grapplers today. I really love his jiu-jitsu. So, well-earned gold medal here for Pato.
Speaking of exciting grapplers, this man right here, Hokage, a.k.a. Fabricio Andre, taking gold in the featherweight division with a submission against 2018 black belt world champion Jameel Hill Taylor. And that triangle, man, this came in about 2 minutes or so. Yeah, just under 2 minutes of the match. To win by submission like that, 1 minute 55 seconds, absolutely phenomenal. You can see Fabricio Andre fired up. He burst through onto the black belt scene at Pans, took bronze there, lost to Jameel on points, but came back to win by submission in the final. Incredible win, absolutely incredible. Watch out for that kid. Lightweight division got a new champion, technically 2, I suppose, but the checkmark black belts, Mateus Gabriel and Renato Canuto, closed out, with Renato Canuto officially getting his first world gold medal.
Yeah, he's been grinding for that for a while. World silver medalist in 2019, looked flawless throughout the tournament here at the 2021 World Championships. And you got to love closing out. But really, the story of the tournament, for me, might be this man here, Tainan Dalpra.
Phenomenal.
Had one of the hardest roads to get to the final, but did so in emphatic fashion.
Man, consider some of the people he beat. Jefferson Guarezi, Ronaldo Jr., Tommy Langacker, and then Isaac Bayens in the final. That is about the toughest possible world championships that you could imagine for a first-year black belt. And he won with a number of submissions, including a submission against Jefferson Guarezi via toe hold. And then, after fighting out of this really terrible position against Tommy Langacker, it's very rare you even see Tainan in bad positions, let alone defending a submission, comes back to win with a submission of his own, a choke from the back. And, man, he's such a smart competitor, right?
Yeah, again, rarely out of position. And I was sneaking glances over at this match, actually. I was commentating on the other mat, but I would hear the crowd start going wild, and I see Tommy almost on the back, and then all of a sudden Tainan's on the back in the choke. Yeah, really impressive, mature approach from Tainan. Never got flustered the one time he was out of position. Was happy to take it to Isaac Bahayans, and it's razor-thin margins, right? A match that some people would criticize for being a little too safe, but at the same time,
But he won it in the last 10 seconds.
yeah, and breaking strategy is something that a rookie might have done to try and please the booze, but he didn't, and that earned him the victory, right? Because
That's what counts.
sometimes those matches require that kind of action.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then you want to talk about action? Look at this guy, Eric Muniz. Wow, what a phenomenal breakout performance at black belt for this guy. We've been following him for a very long time, since the purple belt days. Muniz scoring a flying triangle in his quarterfinal match, beat Felipe Pena in the semifinal, put Pena in bronze in the super heavyweight weight category, and then scored a win over Felipe Andrew in the final as well. Man, Muniz looked amazing. He's got this length, this amazing length that he uses from bottom with his incredible guard, but also his passing, very, very sharp, very underrated, very mobile for such a big guy. He's tall, he's flexible, he's super technical, loves playing the lapel game and the sweeps and such, but also a finisher, really exciting. And, he was able to beat some real veterans like Felipe Pena, and then Felipe Andrews as tough as they come, and man, you can see Eric Muniz had him in all kinds of trouble. It was back and forth on sweeps, but if there's anybody who kind of was in control of the fight, you have to say it was Muniz, because he was the one looking for the finish throughout, and man, it was just a really, really solid performance from somebody who I was a little disappointed not to see Muniz in the absolute division. I feel like he could have potentially done very, very well in the absolute, and I think that his win over Felipe Pena kind of, really speaks to that. But no worry, we'll see him again very soon, I'm sure. But a great win for Eric Muniz at Dream Art. And then, consider the fact that Dream Art, right? They could have had multiple champions in the finals. They had two, right? They had Izaki in the men's division. They had Izaki, and they had Eric Muniz. So not bad, taking home a gold medal in their first 3 months as an official team.
Yeah, Eric Muniz, all the Muniz brothers are definitely key athletes you need to keep an eye on. But Dream Art making inroads. They weren't even able to bring their full squad due to visa issues and travel issues. But again, showing that they are doing all the right things down there in Sao Paulo and producing championship level athletes. Of course, there were also some brand new champs in the women's ranks, some actually really notable results here, including this match here. We have Gabi Pisana, double gold in her first year as a black belt, and also the first woman to submit Gabi Garcia.
Yara submitted her first.
I wasn't sure of the order. So.
Yes. So Yara Suarez, who we'll give a little shout out to later as well, but she submitted Gabi Garcia, and then so did Gabi Pisana as well. But man, you're right, Gabi Pisana, man, what a first year black belt at the World Championships. She's been a black belt since 2019, and she looked like a veteran. She looked like an old hand, and she's only 21.
Yeah, really astonishing. And we see her get the submission over Gabi Garcia. A notable moment for the tournament in general, actually, is Gabi Garcia took this moment to retire from Gi Jiu-Jitsu. Really special moment. But Gabi Pisana is the future, I would say. And then we have Ana Rodriguez, and this was one of the most impressive showings of the entire tournament. A lot of people were highly anticipating Jessica Khan, another standout in her rookie season, first Worlds as a black belt, and A-Rod. But really, this was one-way traffic for Ana Rodriguez. Came out, put the smash on more or less, and was able to get the submission win, and looked great in her final as well against Tammy Musumeci, who is going to be going for her second world title.
And that's no joke. So she took out two very highly rated competitors in Jessica Khan and Tammy Musumeci. I think A-Rod is the future in this light featherweight division, man.
I love her game, right? Really goes for broke, goes for the sub every time, and doesn't matter how many points she's up by, she's going to try and get that finish. So A-Rod coming out strong, and like you said, maybe the future for some time to come. Next, we have Gabby McComb here on top in the black gi. Gabby, another fantastic year for this athlete who made a team change, joined Atos, I want to say at the beginning of the year, maybe the very end of 2020, and it's done wonders for her results, right? She was always right there at the very top, but now she's winning worlds, gi, no gi, and look at the pressure we see from Gabby McComb here. Really relentless, not satisfied with the pass, chasing the back here of Gabby Fector from checkmat, and eventually locking in this choke, getting home the win. So Gabby McComb, maybe not the most outspoken athlete as far as her social media game, but her results and her matches really do the job.
Yeah. And then Melissa Stricker of Alliance, she took gold in the heavyweight division with a very definitive win against Isadora Silva in the final here. And again, another brand new face that you may be not too aware of. She was competing as a brown belt just up until a couple of years ago. But yeah, Melissa Stricker, or Striker, I think actually is how you pronounce it. Yeah, she got the win. And man, it was a great weekend for these breakout stars in the black belt divisions, and we were predicting a number of brand new champions this year because there were many divisions without a returning champion. But it's also very cool to see black belts come, rise through and rise to the top in divisions where there were established champions, much like Anna Rodriguez against Mikey Musumeci and Tynan versus Isaac. Examples of the next generation coming through and shaking things up. We love to see it, right?
Well said. Yeah, I agree completely with that.
Little shout out. Of course, all the champions were deserving of a mention, but with so many divisions, it's a little difficult to talk about every single champion. We will do our best to kind of bring sort of a little more of a recap of the overall sort of event sort of as we go. But I think that talking about champions, we got to talk about Mikey Musumeci. Okay, Mikey Musumeci now is a 4-time world champion, winning 4 gold medals in 2 divisions, no less. Took gold 2017 and 2018 in the light featherweight divisions, returned to 2019 and 2021 to take gold in the roosterweight divisions. Now, Mikey Musumeci now, with his 4 world gold medals in the IBJJF World Championships, he now accounts for half of all the gold medals won by all American male black belts in the history of the IBJJF World Championships.
Crazy statistic there. And we have a quick highlight here from his matches from Worlds. But yeah, Mikey Musumeci really getting it done. We didn't even know if he was going to do Worlds for quite some time in the lead up here. And then 1 week out, he registers, says, I'm going for Rooster, no questions asked. And
he was vintage Mikey as well, right?
He did it emphatically. A couple sweet ankle locks the first year against Bebeto from GF Team. Really puts a smash on and gets it done in half the round there. We saw a very similar match against Jonas Andrade here. What is Mikey doing with this ankle lock that is so successful, right? He really has the details that gets the finish every time.
His leg lock game is so good, huh? Gi or no gi, you cannot give Mikey Musumeci your feet. He's going to tap you out if you do. But I think this was a great performance from Mikey. It was clinical in his earlier matches. He was able to submit a number of opponents. And then, of course, his match against Bruno Malfacini in the final, I mean, this was a very, very solid win. You think back to their previous match in 2019, and it was pretty close. Not so in this match. I would say not so at all. Bruno came out aggressive, as is his style, but when Mikey got his game going, man, he was in control. And Bruno had some moments when he was looking to, kind of get after him. But the truth is that he didn't have a lot to offer Mikey. Mikey's game is so good, Mikey's technique is so sharp, and his strategy was so perfect for somebody like Bruno that, for me, it was a pretty dominant finish.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting Berimbolo exchange that we saw. I definitely invite our viewers to go back and watch the whole thing because Mikey has to chase this over the course of several minutes. Bruno Malfacini has had his fair exchange of Berimbolo attacks and has excellent defense. So Mikey had to really, really work. You can see as we're kind of cycling through the highlight here, it's been over 2 minutes now. But Mikey never actually goes backwards and slowly starts to climb, make the adjustments required. And this is the most significant moment of the match where he does eventually get the back, secures the hooks here. But amazing job from Mikey to never lose position, right? Bruno could escape this from 99.9% of the population. But
yeah.
Mikey is able to get it done. And from here, more or less held it back. And then I think Bruno did eventually get out, but there was no real scoring from him. Just a couple of advantages as we saw there. And Mikey claims his now 4th title as a black belt.
Incredible. 6-0 win. Mikey Musumeci sets a new record at the World Championships, the most successful American competitor at the male black belt ranks in the history of the IBJJF World Championships. That is huge. That is absolutely massive, and hopefully will serve as some inspiration to other non-Brazilians coming through in the sport. There were a number, actually, and I think this is important to note as well. There were a number of other non-Brazilians who made it through onto the podium this year in both the male and the female divisions. All of the women's black belt champions, they were all Brazilians this year. There were a number of other nationalities that made it through onto the podium, including 7 Americans, 1 Italian, and 1 Pole. Into the podium there in the women's black belt divisions. In the men's black belt divisions, after Mikey taking gold, there were 2 silvers for America, 2 bronzes, and then there was also a bronze for Norway. And I want to give a special shout out actually to the 2 silver medalists who made it through into the final. Malachi Edmond and Shane Jamil Hill-Taylor, both taking silver in their divisions, in the light featherweight and the featherweight. These 2 Team Lloyd Irvin black belts making it through into the finals. So, we could have seen 3 Americans win gold in the same World Championships. Obviously it didn't come to fruition, but that in itself, and getting through into the finals, I believe that may actually be the most American males in the World Championship finals at one time. So that is incredible, and big shout out to those guys there. And but yeah, we'll love to see them come back. But still got to wait to take out those Brazilians. But with Mikey, like I say, leading the way, hopefully he'll serve as inspiration to some others, right?
100%. And of course, while the champions deserve all the limelight, there were a lot of great submissions we saw throughout the tournament. And, one of the best parts is seeing some highlights. So we put together a quick little highlight here, some of our favorite subs. And I think this one kicks off with one of the wildest submissions of the entire tournament here.
Yeah, man, this was really phenomenal stuff. Roberto Cyborg in the blue against Nicholas Meregali. Nicholas Meregali's incredible lasso guard. Thought he was going to go for the armbar, but Cyborg was wise to it. But that head down, go forward, pressure passing style that Cyborg is so well known for, his downfall as he goes into this loop choke from Meregali, tries to spin out of it, but Meregali basically has him in bottom. He's in bottom side control at one point. You see Cyborg taps, but as he lets go of the choke, oof, it was done. And then another guy who scored a massive amount of submissions was Kainan Duarte. Kainan had 4 matches on the first day, if you include his weight division and his absolute. He submitted 3 of them, and he got a submission in the final as well. Gabi Pisagna, of course. Oh, sorry, that's Yara. That's Yara's submission of Gabi Garcia. And, man, they were flying, right? The submissions were flying.
They really were. And yeah, Kainan Duarte is a champ that we haven't really touched on too much. I feel like maybe it's because it was almost the expectation that he might be the favorite in that division. But really, Kainan's jiu-jitsu was so impressive throughout the entire tournament, right?
He cruised to victory. There were very few people who even had Kainan in a bad spot, let alone were able to challenge him. The only match that wasn't a dominant win was Kainan's match against Gabriel Enrique Oliveira of Alliance, a semi-final match in the heavyweight division. But yeah, this is Kainan's final right here. A rear naked choke in the final against Luan Azevedo. Man, Kainan looked incredible all weekend. Looks so strong, so powerful. I would say a class apart from the majority of people in that heavyweight division. And then to wrap it off, of course, to wrap it up, you got Victor Hugo's submission of Max Jimenez in the final. Man, Victor's leg locks are so nasty.
Yeah, he really has a well-rounded game, and like you pointed out in the first segment of the show, I do feel Victor gets some undue criticism for just going out and doing what he can. When IBJJF gave him a shot, and he went for the gold medal, and he took that with emphasis. So, yeah, Victor Hugo really is one of the very best athletes today. And, I mean, we talked about Felipe Pena Meregali rematch. I wouldn't mind seeing another Victor Hugo Meregali match either.
Yeah. They actually fought twice on the weekend. They fought twice. Victor Hugo lost to him in the absolute and in the ultra heavyweight semi-final. But yeah, the submissions were firing, and we love to see it. And that's what the World Championships is all about. There was some criticism over what people considered to be the stalling. There was a criticism over the amount of 50-50, the amount of lapel, the amount of lapel 50-50. I think that's fair. I think it's fair to point out those instances where the jiu-jitsu could be a lot better than it was. But don't let it overshadow the fact that there were a large number of very impressive submissions. And I think what we'll do is we'll do our best to gather those all together into a nice highlight or a collection so that you guys can go back and study some of it. Because there was some great jiu-jitsu last weekend.
Absolutely. And coming with that great jiu-jitsu and fantastic results come promotions, right? So as it is tradition, more or less after Worlds, the winning class gets to go on to the next rank. And I've already seen rather a bunch of new black belts come out of this tournament.
Man, some of them were getting promoted literally the second they stepped off the mat. Play this video, please, Tyler, because it's quite often you'll see guys get the belt tied around their waist on the podium. But Guy Mendez, man, he doesn't wait. Look at this. He doesn't hang around. Yasmin Casa, she won gold in the brown belt division. The moment she steps off the mat, Guy Mendez is tying the belt around her waist. That's so cool, right?
Yeah, and it's a special moment. Guy did that several times throughout the week, including Mateus Rodriguez and some of the lower ranks as well. Here we see Jansen Gomez, an athlete that Buchecha calls the future of jiu-jitsu.
And this guy looked incredible all weekend. Yeah, and we've seen a lot of Jansen this year. He took gold in his division and didn't do the absolute in the end, but man, he looked so good and rightfully getting it. Was actually a really emotional moment when he got promoted as well, because his original coach, Rico Vieira, came all the way over from Portugal, and his dad came all the way from Rio de Janeiro, and they tied the belt around his waist on the podium. I thought that was such a cool moment to see. Mason Fowler finally gets his black belt.
Yeah. I want to say he got his brown belt in 2018. I could be wrong about that, but it's been a minute, right? Caio doesn't give those things out easily. And while Mason won his division, he didn't have the result in the absolute. Kyle still gave it to him. We saw a beautiful triangle here to make his way. I think that this was for the final. This might have been the final, actually. This was the final, I want to say, in his division.
It was. Yeah.
So credit to Mason Fowler. He's been deserving for some time now. One of the best gi and no gi
I love that
athletes
smile
out there.
on his face.
And so, yeah, really great stuff from Mason Fowler.
Ooh, hello, black screen.
We're still
there
here.
We are. Hello, we're back. Yeah, sorry, lights went off for a minute there.
And so a lot of other athletes as well got their latest belts. How some of them being Coco Izzy, Lucas Rodriguez from AOJ, Damian Balderrama, but there was another pair of brothers that I think really showed out over the course of the tournament, and they were promoted as well.
All right, so the Ruotolo brothers, number one, they made history by being, apparently this is the case of the only case of brothers, plus the only case of twin brothers, making it through into the final of the same division and then fighting for real to see who would get the gold medal. No closeout for Ty and Cade Ruotolo. They said going into this, they said, yeah, we'll fight against each other in the final, and they did. The match was phenomenal, by the way. Ty ended up winning by armbar, and it was just a crazy match. I go back and watch. We've got all of their matches actually from Worlds in a collection. If you scroll down the front page, you'll see all of the Ruotolo brothers matches, and they're all amazing. But I see them going at it in the final. But then they get back. They come out of Worlds, and then Monday afternoon, Atos Jiu-Jitsu in San Diego, there's a very special promotion ceremony. Andre Galvao brings them into the gym, brings everybody together, the Ruotolo brothers family and everything, and they get promoted to black belt at only 18 years of age. We've got a video. We'll play it right now, and you can see and hear a little bit of what happened on that day. Roll the tape.
Celebrate. Today is a day of celebration. I'll do a belt promotion right now, okay? And then we're gonna have fun after that. I'm your Cade and Ty.
Jason first every time. Every time. You got me at World. And I won, yeah. Crazy. Unreal. Wow. Yeah, like you said, it's a lifetime coming. I think like 15 and a half, almost 16 years we've been training, and just feels surreal. I kind of to be honest, I've known I've been getting it for like the last 2 days, but it still kind of feels like it still hasn't settled in. You know, it's kind of crazy. Kay and I, we started training when we were 3, and my dad got me into it. My dad and my mom together, and yeah, it's a long road that we've been, you know, to kind of get to this point. So honored and stoked that you're giving this to me right now. Honestly, I'm so happy. Team, this is the vibe here. It's hard to find a good team with a positive environment. You know, it really is. We've trained at many places over the years for sure, and you can definitely. I'm so thankful for all you guys too, all the teammates for really making us feel like family. You know, stoked to be black belt, represent you guys and the team, and I'm excited for the future. Good job. And then now next year we have Worlds again in 6 months, Europeans, Pans, everything before that, so, and ADCC. So next year I'm like just feeling motivated.
Oh no, typo in the lower third. Shit. Promoted to black belt.
The team at the highest level.
Thank you,
Let's
Tyler. Sorry, it's my bad.
You should probably be that.
Surf.
Autumn boys.
Special moments there from inside the Atos HQ in San Diego. Pretty awesome to hear as well that the Ruotolo brothers, man, they're saying that, hey, this tournament's coming up. Europeans, Worlds, ADCC. I think they're going to have a busy year in 2022.
Man, I love those guys. Whatever we saw them just like buzzsaw through every division, fighting in all the finals together. Obviously, a black belt, that's a tall order, but it's a great storyline. I love their attitudes. They're so fun to watch. They're great guys, and congratulations for getting their black belt.
Man, just imagine for a minute. Just imagine the Ruotolo brothers competing at lightweight black belt in these major tournaments, and just think of some of the matches that we could see them have. It is just incredible. We saw Renato Canuto and Mateus Gabriel close out the final of the Checkmat black belts, close out the final at Worlds there. I mean, either of the Ruotolo brothers against either of those guys is like a dream match. We could see it happen next season. I cannot wait for next year. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And what a way to enter the next season, like you said, and there's some scintillating matchups for those guys.
All right, so to wrap things up here, this episode, I think what we want to do is just a little reminder that the FloGrappling Awards take place at the end of each year. Now, what we do is we gather together, we make a long list all the way through the year. We have a spreadsheet going with a bunch of different categories, including, you can bring this up, including Match of the Year, Grappler of the Year, Submission of the Year, and more. And what we do is we basically keep a running list throughout the year, and then we get it down to a short list of 6 nominations in each category. The categories that we will be opening up are Grappler of the Year, Female Grappler of the Year. That includes gi and no gi. We don't discriminate here at FloGrappling, right? Breakthrough Grappler of the Year, Match of the Year, and Submission of the Year. So only 5 categories. And that means that these are very exclusive. If you win the FloGrappling Award in any of these categories, it's a pretty big deal. Because not only do we have the internal vote, we have the committee inside FloGrappling, made up of a number of very high-ranking analysts and commentators and such. We all will vote. But we open the vote up for the fans. You get your opportunity to have your say as well. You are part of that voting committee. And we want you to help determine who will win these categories. We will be announcing the shortlist very soon. We will be rolling out packages for each of those categories. We'll tell you who exactly you can vote for male, female Grappler of the Year, Breakthrough Grappler of the Year, Submission of the Year, Match of the Year. Man, there is no shortage of nominations, man. Potential nominations.
The lists are very long right now. I mean, it's incredible. It's been a great year for Jiu-Jitsu with the IBJJF returning with all the majors, as well as the WNO coming into full effect there. We have our work cut out for us, and so do you. As soon as we figure out the short list of nominations, we'll be putting that out there. And again, you can have your chance to vote, get your say in there, and see who becomes the FloGrappling Award winners for 2021. So
we're not going to tease today any of the shortlists for the Grappler of the Year in either any of those categories, because I think we'll keep those under wraps. But maybe we can just talk about some of the possible submissions of the year, because this is the one category where the list is longer than any other, right? We have a short list that's like about 40 pages long, right? This is a very, very long list of possible submissions of the year. And I think it's one of those things that, of course, we're always looking out for the standout submissions, and I think standout submissions can come for a number of reasons, right? They make it onto this list. You've got your perfect technique. You've just got your clinical submission finishes. You've got the come from behind wins when somebody's down on points or they're getting their ass kicked the entire match and then they pull something out the bag. You've got the interesting and the exotic submissions, the ones that maybe are a little unusual or rarely seen. And then, you've got the ones that are just straight up badass.
Well, let's not forget high stakes. You submit in a final. That's important too.
Absolutely, yeah. When everything, where all the chips are down, and you know it's make or break, those kind of submissions, they maybe count for more than something in a random local tournament or something like that. Because, you know, where's the fun in beating up low-level guys, right? We want to see high-level guys going at it.
That's the only fun I can have. And by low-level, I mean, you know.
Kids class.
Exactly, kids class.
But yeah, there's absolutely tons. I mean, we've got some of the names that I'll tease maybe in the submission of the year include people such as Gordon Ryan, Mikey Musumeci, Tim Spriggs, Grace Gundrum, Kainan Duarte, the Ruotolo brothers, even people such as Jacob Couch make it onto this into this shortlist. So there's it's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll have plenty of choices to come over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, join us as we go through that process. We'll be announcing the winners in early 2022 after voting is closed, and we'll be presenting each of those winners with a nice little trophy to mark that achievement. Well, that's pretty much it from today. Can't talk about everything at Worlds, unfortunately. You'll probably be discussing it amongst ourselves for weeks as it is. But guys, it's been a pleasure to have you back. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the World Championships. Go back and you can watch all the match archives, replays, interviews, highlights, vlogs. OG Trey has been putting together an amazing collection of vlogs from on the ground there, the run-up to and during the World Championships, and there's going to be lots more stuff to come, including we're going to do some analysis of how the divisions were played out, the champions that were crowned, some statistics about the champions, and big rankings updates out of this as well. So all that and more. We'll see you next time.